Hello, everyone, and welcome to this roundtable session on the war in Ukraine and the energy crisis in the light of climate action. Definitely a very timely and important topic. I'd first like to welcome you on behalf of the Center for International Sustainable Development Law, and I'd like to introduce our host, our chair for this session, Magdalena Stryja, who is a legal fellow at CISDL and also a member of the Polish Supreme Bar Council and the Katowice Bar Council.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you, Nick, and thank you, everyone, to join us here. And welcome to our session entitled "The War in Ukraine and Energy Crisis in the Light of Climate Action." We are delighted to be here and to be invited to speak today. And I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Mary Claire Katowice, distinguished member of the CLGD Program Committee, and friends for invitation and for such enthusiastic reaction of our panel. I want to thank the distinguished speaker for accepting our invitation. And of course, at the beginning, I have to and I want to thank to Anna Budzanowska for her support. And Anna is the coordinator of our panel, and we will work together on it. So, so let me turn to introduce our panel and our various topics for today. We will be addressing the following questions. What are the results of the European Union's legal and regulatory response to the war in Ukraine and energy crisis on the EU's climate policy? What is the impact of the energy crisis on pro-climate activities and in the light of the war in Ukraine? How do we see the future energy mix for the region metropolis? That are the currently challenges and needs? What kind of solution we may carry out to protect most vulnerable people and not ditch the climate goals during the energy crisis? And how can Erasmus Plus program provide ways to ecological and Ukraine crisis before permanent legal solutions are provided? And how can legal solutions support and accelerate startups development in the renewable energy sector in light of energy crisis? We kindly ask that you save your questions for the end of presentation. We have kept some time at the end of our session for this, I hope, and look forward to hearing your reactions. And each panelist brings a unique background perspective and their own level of optimism and criticism. But before we hear from our panelists, I would like to share a short introduction to the topic of our session. So, as we all know, one of the most shocking and decisive events of 2022 was undoubtedly Russia's shocking invasion of Ukraine. And Poland is in a unique situation with its long land border with Ukraine. It has already welcomed almost 3 million refugees. And apart from the human tragedy and cruelty that we see every day in the media, the war in Ukraine showed Poland and Europe as well how dangerous the dependence of economy on fossil fuel is. The war in Ukraine and energy crisis has raised many fundamental questions in Poland and in Europe about energy future, including low carbon transition. And what is interesting, the beginning of the war slowed down the process because it shifted attention away from transition action. But paradoxically, the war has increased the urgency to move away from fossil fuels and dependence on Russian supplies. And we now observe in Poland and in Europe greater public support for change, a dramatic change in society previously against green transformation. So the European energy crisis could be maybe catalyst for positive change. The path to reducing the European economy's dependence on fossil fuel from Russia is also clearly outlined in the 10-point plan published by the International Energy Agency. So now it's my pleasure to introduce today's panelists. Allow me to invite our distinguished speaker one by one and introduce each of them separately before each presentation. So let me have this privilege and introduce Honorable Mr. Mikołaj Budzanowski. He will start our session. Hello, Mikołaj.
Hi,
and
hello.
Mikołaj is the Polish manager and former Polish Ministry of State Treasury. Currently, he's Director General of Joint Stock Company Boryszew. He's a board member of Innovation and New Products Boryszew Energy. He was an advisor in the Polish delegation to the European Parliament. He was also director of the Department of Climate Change and Sustainable Development of the Ministry of the Environment. And he is also the author of essays on energy and innovation. So Mikołaj, welcome. It's an honor to have you here. And Mikołaj will share with us his reflection on the topic of the war in Ukraine and energy crisis in the light of climate action. Mr. Mikołaj Wizanowski, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Very good morning to everybody. Thank you, Magda, for this short introduction. So maybe before we start, we would like to share the presentation, if that is possible right now. I can do it by myself right now, but I need to have the access. Is that possible? Because I don't have. Can you give me the access, the host of this? Okay, is that possible then?
I think you should have access now. I can also share it.
I prefer to have the access right now. Maybe not yet. Maybe
you should have access.
Maybe we are far away. We are today in Poland. It's also nice as in Sharm El Sheikh today. Just waiting still. Maybe now it should be much better right now, hopefully. Okay. Now we have. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, we see.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's okay. Yeah, for everybody. Magda, do you see the presentation?
Yes, but I have kind of. Yes, I can see the presentation. Yes.
Hopefully, yeah. Okay, good, great,
yes,
good,
thank you.
awesome. That's very awesome.
Thank you, and I can see you, and I can see you.
It was not so easy, but now it's works very well. Thank you for this introduction. It's a great topic today. Really actually one of the most important right now in the whole of Europe and as well in the world. So we don't have much time, just only 10 minutes for my presentation from my side. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you for this. It's a great honor for me. And let's say, yeah, let's light the candle for the next 10 minutes. Start with what's the most important question that I am having today, and I am across all the presentations I got most. What is the real profound impact and outcome of the crisis in Ukraine on the climate and energy policy across Europe? What is the real big unlock coming out of this crisis for all of us? It affects for sure all three levels. I mean, the social level of our society, industry level, very, very much important, as well as a regulatory level. And basically, what's the most important thing that obviously, for the first time, what has happened during the whole 2022 crisis has really affected personally our daily lives. And we are not talking about something which is sometimes very too general, 1.5 Celsius degree, 2 or 3, that you have decreased in terms of climate change policy, but rather the crisis has affected our daily lives because of the crisis. And what I wanted to say from the very beginning is you see right now what has happened during all the 2022 year, that's very, very difficult, because by the end of the day, nor the society in Europe, not the industry, we do not understand, actually, to be very honest, what does it mean to decrease 1.5 degree of Celsius. It's so far away from us, for our daily lives, for our daily problems as the industry, as a society. What we really see are the rising prices of something which is the most fundamental thing, like heat, like energy, like gas, like food, like fuel. And that's the real new changes that has affected our lives in 2022. Look at this graph, what we have started at the beginning of this year. It was quite maybe stable. If you see the graph here on the left-hand side, just only below 100 per 1 megawatt hour of gas. Then by the end of February, it has spiked to more than 220, 230. And that was really a big problem for all of us in the industry, in steel, aluminum, automotive industry, because nobody know what will happen afterwards. Can we survive or not? That was the real question at the turn of February and March of 2022. Then it was slightly better, the situation as you see on the graph here, and then there was another statement by the Russian government concerning the ruble payment decree, and that we are living with this by the end of June. Then there were some new political discussions by the Kremlin and Putin concerning the idling the Nord Stream 1. And you see on the graph on the right-hand side that by the end of the day in August, the Nord Stream, they have decided to idle and to stop sending the gas via via pipelines, both pipelines of Nord Stream 1 to Western Europe. And then the prices were extremely high, more than 300. I mean, that was a real problem, real danger for the whole European industry, food industry, agriculture, almost everything. Because as you maybe remember, in August, most of the companies, chemical factories in all of Europe, they have announced, okay, we cannot produce any more. We have to idle our factories. So most of the idlers were stopped producing anything, especially for the agriculture and fuel. That was really, really big problem, big threat for all of us. Today, we are in a much better position right now, what you see, but it's not because of some regulations, but because of the good weather. The good weather saved our basic life in 2022. That is something to have to bear in mind for all of us today. It's only because of good weather. It's not because of what we have, what kind of infrastructure, energy infrastructure we have in Europe. This same has happened with energy prices, very complete roller coaster concerning the prices. This is on the spot prices from the very beginning of this year, extremely dangerous, and that has affected the inflation, that has affected our daily lives. Coal, well, and this is the only one slide that from a certain perspective, you would say, okay, that's very good for the market from the climate change point of view, that the prices of coal are so high today, because we need coal still, but in the future, in the coming future, 2024, 25, 26, we will not need any more coal because it's so very, very much high and very expensive. As you see, we just the coal was the price of coal last year was below 100, and then today we have even it was about 450, then about 300, 350. And this is my favorite slide, the most important one that I would like to share with you. Why is this so much favorite for us and for all climate friendly people? Is because it shows the graph. When we start with something that you see here on the bottom line, this is the green, this is the price of the cost of to produce the green energy in Poland. And this is something really great. You see that is slightly below 100 euro per 1 megawatt hour. So this slide shows that the cheapest energy available in the system in Europe is coming to be a green energy for the coming future. This is the most important lecture that that comes out of the Ukraine crisis in 2022. You see the graph on the opposite side, DTF, that was the energy that you want to produce out of gas. Gas, which is usually traded on the in Netherlands or the German market, and you see how expensive it is. This is more than 200, sometimes it was even 400 euro per 1 megawatt hour. This is crazy that we will destroy everything in our continent. So this is the opposite. This is thanks to the Nord Stream 1, and unfortunately, because if without Nord Stream 1 or 2, the situation would be much easier. And the second graph, you here see coal, ARA, yes, from Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The energy produced out of this coal is also very much expensive, beyond 150, beyond 160, 70 euro per 1 megawatt hour. This is something for the industrial social point of view completely unacceptable, because it destroys the whole European industry. And well, we will lose our competitiveness within, let's say, 1 year. So the most important thing that coming out of this graph is green energy, clean energy is the cheapest one, which is today available and will be available for the coming 10 years. And the second lesson, very much important, because what we have seen in the crisis in Ukraine is that green energy you produce on site, you produce within your continent, your cities, your land. You don't need to import anything, only wind turbines and photovoltaics installation. But you don't need to buy wind, you don't need to buy solar. So you are independent. So green means independency. And this is the second very important lesson out of this crisis, where we should go, where we should invest in Europe, because this is the only one direction that is safe for us and is cheap for us. If we see from the graph that only because of highly dependency level from the other importers or exporters of gas and coal to Europe, the prices of the final energy was so high, because we are very much dependent on global on the situation on the global markets, and we are actually not independent as a whole European nation. That's the real problem. That's the real direction where we should go, where we should change. And this is the only one reason why we actually, to be honest, survived the last few months, and especially the last October and November, because the temperatures were very high. We've got a very strong sun and as well strong wind. So the energy mix was much greener than it was a year before. And look at this, that's very important. We are still, this is the Germany in this very case. On the left side, you see the renewable generation after 9 months. So it has slightly changed, more than 9% in Germany. In wind production, it was like more than 8% and almost 11% in solar. But it can be more. This slide is very interesting for all the participants from Poland, because you see we are really one of the leaders. We used to be in the 2022. We don't know what will happen next year, but you see renewable after 9 months, 56%. That's great, and that really have saved our prices. The clean energy has saved our prices for several months, especially from June, July, August, and October this year. In solar generation, we did it only within 1 year, from year over year, from 2021 to 2022, by more than 100% increase our production capacity in Poland. That's a great, this is a proper direction where we should develop. Look here, green energy production, that's very important. What you see here on the left side, upper one, this is the renewable generation in Germany. 40%, this is after 9 months. After 6 months, it was 50% of the energy mix in Germany was green. So imagine that it is the first time in the whole history that there is such a high amount of green that was supporting the whole energy system, the clean energy, and with this green energy, you could still produce and run chemical, aluminum, and steel factories in Germany. So that's very a good example where should we go in the future. The same was happening in Poland. You see that was like in 2021 more 10% was a renewable energy generation in Polish energy system. And today, after 9 months of this year, that's already surpassed 70%. And that's very important to have a proper understanding that for the nuclear power plant, you have to wait like 10 to 15 years to build a new nuclear power plant. With renewable generation, you can really increase year over year by 50%, which is Poland is the best example right now. So how fast can we change our generation model of energy in Europe? This is a very proof of this and a good direction for next generation. Let's say that's okay. So we are very happy what we have achieved until now. The question today is that we have to ask ourselves about complacency, because there is a feeling today that we are in a good situation after 9 months, 10 months, 11 months right now in November. But what I would like to say today, this is a really premature. I mean, complacency is very dangerous. I don't like complacency, especially in the situation where we are today in Europe. We survived the first 10 months, but there's a huge challenge ahead of us for the coming months until, let's say, March of 2023. And then the next year, meaning the next year, the turn of 2023 to 2024. So that's a real dangerous situation where we are today, because still our fundamentals are weak. You see, everybody understand this, and from your own experience, the Nord Stream 1, that was a very dangerous situation. Interesting behind what has happened in Baltic Sea with this explosion is that the Nord Stream 1 was not in use during this explosion. So our financial market and energy market in the whole of Europe actually got used to the situation that the Nord Stream was not running during the whole August and September. Nevertheless, somebody has decided, okay, we have to explode the Nord Stream 1. The question is why? And that's very important to answer in a proper way this question. This is a message to all of us in Europe that all our infrastructure that we have today, the energy and infrastructure, transmission infrastructure, or even generation infrastructure that we have is under threat, that it can be bombed almost every day. Imagine the situation, what can happen in even this year, then something that's happened with the pipelines connecting our system of Europe with Norway. I'm not talking about the Baltic Sea because it's a very small one, Baltic pipeline connecting Poland to Norway, but I'm talking about the two major pipelines connecting the whole of Europe with Norway. This is a collapse of Europe that could happen within a few months from today on. So still, this is an option, and that might happen. And this is another slide that shows this is a very difficult maybe to believe in, but it's very possible. On the left side, you see Kiev and blackouts in Kiev, because Kiev has, as a city with 3 million inhabitants today, they have few connections, most probably no more than three connections of their energy connections with the power plant generators. And on the left side, you see Berlin. Berlin has some more, maybe 4. In Warsaw, we have 4 in Poland. And believe me, this is very possible today, that even within 1 hour, the whole city, all the transmission connectors to each individual city could be bombed and then dismantled within 1 hour. You don't need to use nuclear power plants today. It's only about 3 or 4 connections to the cities when you you can destroy the whole city and then force all the inhabitants to leave the city. And we are today in the same danger as it was the case with Nord Stream 1. So complacency is too premature today. So as you see, European countries in the face of this crisis began to introduce new limitations. That's great. That's okay. That's very important to decrease the energy and heat usage, especially the heat usage, which is a very important part of the especially for the cities. But for sure it will be not enough.
We will have to run to the end because we are running on time.
Okay. Okay. So okay, great. So by the end of what we need actually today, this is something that needs all the investments and especially the regulatory directions should change. It's a need to build a metaverse energy, so something that will be very diversified, that will be almost everywhere connected, every industrial company connected and cities connected with energy generators. So this is the most important part, to build this kind of new metaverse connection energy in the whole of Europe. And the answer to this is also some Europe Power EU plan. So this is great direction from the European Commission. The question today, whether are we going in the sprint contest or is it rather marathon run contest? We don't have time today, as you know. So sprint contest is much more important. Those are the most important things where the whole industry, the heavy industry today is heading, like low carbon transport, green production, like green chemical, green IT computing power, very important one. And that's something that we are already going today in this direction, but this is the mega trend for the coming, let's say 5 to 7 years, no longer. And here we see already the great changing ideas that really are green, completely almost between 95 to 100%. And that's very important for your understanding that it's already happening, yes? That we are starting to produce not only electric vehicles, but electric vehicles that are based on clean steel, 100% clean steel on 100% clean aluminum. So this is something, a great salutary experience that is coming out from the crisis, that we really have to invest more in green production facilities, a decentralized system against the centralized based on fossil fuel. And because of our safety and because of also to protect our environment. And this is the mega trend that's already started and is really going in a very good direction. Yeah, thank you for attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minister, for this extraordinary presentation and for sharing essential knowledge and experience and your observation. And by the way, happy birthday. So thank you. Thank you so much. And a few words introduction to our next distinguished speaker. Well, few of us live and work in the heart of a very active industrial region with dozens of coal miners, heavy industry, and the combined urban populations. So therefore, we are very grateful that the special guest accepted our invitation to this session. Mr. Kazimierz Karolczak, welcome, the president of the metropolis of Upper Silesia and Zagłębie. And as the eyes of Europe look at the Poland and Silesia in the context of climate change and climate policy, the presentation of the president is significant to us. And Kazimierz Karolczak is a Polish politician. He was a board member of the Silesian Voivodeship. He was also the vice marshal of the Voivodeship, where he was responsible for the matter related to, among other things, the European Social Fund, environmental protection, and economy. And in 2017, he was elected president of the Metropolis GZM, the first metropolitan association in Poland. And Mr. President will share with us knowledge by answering the question, looking at Metropolis GZM, a coal region undergoing both the energetic and the social transformation, and in the context of the current geopolitical situation, how do we see the future energy mix for the region? What are the current challenges and needs? And what is the main obstacle in addressing the assumed challenging according to the President? So welcome, it's an honor to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. After the excellent presentation of Mikołaj, it's very difficult for me to add something interesting, but maybe a few words shortly about perspective my representative local government, what we thinking about the situation now. From my point of view, war does not make the climate crisis related threats for the need to take preventive drastic measures go away. We are facing the more challenge 2 years of pandemic, war in Ukraine, and now is excessive gas prices, electricity prices. Whole geopolitical situation should motivate us not to stop, but to accelerate energy transformation. In local government, we see that we have to build some independence on regional or local level according to the energy sources. Thanks to the new technologies, materials, this is much more possible than ever. Distributed energy, wind and solar power plants, green hydrogen, green ammonia, that's the direction for, I think, local regional governments build some more independence than now. Now we have any tools to act against this situation, and for us it's very difficult time with our budget and financial cost of functioning. Anyway, the energy transformation, like an great change, must be accepted by the society in order to be successful. No great social and economic reform is fully possible without understanding the needs to act toward changes. Without acceptance of our society, we are not able to do nothing forward, especially kind of region like Upper Silesia, mining region. We built our economy based on coal and mining sector, steel sector. Since 20s, we start transformation 20 years ago, but anyway, we have still to do. We have to be able providing jobs to employees in the mining and mining related sectors, enable professional retraining, ensuring economic development of mining regions. The globalization with the development of new technologies and building a green economy, caring for the environmental and climate, but also energy security. Now in our region, we call Poland, as Mikołaj showed us, the share of coal electricity production is still high, is about 73% of production compared to only 70% from renewable energy sources, and approximately 8% from gas. From my point of view, the role of renewable energy and nuclear energy as the stabilization of the whole system for grid will play a key role in Poland energy mix. Both nuclear and renewable energy should complement each other to jointly create a zero-emission economy of the future. But we have to think how to, on the local and regional level, we have to be really more independent, build some own sources, sometimes build some projects of grids. This is very important for us. We have to enable development of renewable energy sources, wind, solar energy, such as the construction of the grids that it can absorb increasing amount of energy from stable sources. expensive energy forces a radical improvement in energy efficiency and accelerate development of renewable energy in all sectors of the economy. This is shortly from my point of view as the local representative. I think that Mikołaj show us the trends link to the whole country, not only region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for a very essential speech. And I think that for everyone watching us now, it's crucial to present the situation of Silesia in the context of climate policy, energy crisis. And also it's interesting that especially from the Just Transition Fund, numerous funds are allocated to Silesia. So as I said, the eyes of Europe are watching the Silesia. So thank you so much, Mr. President. And thank you for being with us today. And our next speakers is very well known to you. It's Professor Agnieszka Bielska-Brodziak. Like me, the professor has been accompanying the Climate Law and Government Day for five years. And Professor Bielska-Brodziak, she's a habilitated legal science doctor who conducts scientific research in legal interpretation and at the interface between law and bioethics, ombudsman for students and PhD students' rights at the University of Silesia, a lawyer, legal advisor, and also she's animal activities. And with her, I would like to welcome Dr. Magdalena Drapalska, promising young scientist, and she will be co-speaker in the speech. So Magdalena and Agnieszka, the floor is yours. It's an honor to have you here.
So thank you very much. I hope I'm well heard by you because I have a really weak internet connection, but I hope it's not a problem. So thank you for the possibility to take part in such an event. It's such a pleasure. So I'm Bielska-Brodziak have written a few preliminary intuitions, which are in the contrast from the two previous speeches, are mostly a theoretical approach because we are a legal theorists. So I will briefly show our answer divided into four cases, which I described. So firstly, as solutions to promote the choices made by those who have tried to meet the air protection and climate protection goals, even if they are well off. It's not only a case of a material status, but precisely it's a case of the consequence. So the state should be convinced of the consistency in implementing necessarily long-term policies. People who showed initiative in this area should not be disappointed. Later, manage society emotions toward law by keeping the promises and the solutions introduced if they work. So it is possible that between legislator and the society exists some kind of specific bond which can be empowered and weakened. So speaking of disappointment, in this case, we mean a situation in which citizens take really seriously the implementation of certain goals, important from the perspective of development of their state, but the legislator, regardless of this commitment, changes its decision. So ultimately, this could weaken the authority of a legislator and reduce the influence of citizens' future climate choices. So maintaining commitment in this regard, it's really important. So the energy crisis is a phenomenon whose risk caused by dependence on fossil fuels can be significantly reduced in the future, not despite, but precisely thanks to the green transformation. Its abandonment, mainly for important reasons here and now, would be an action that would increase the risk of further crises in this type in the future. And it is therefore perfectly reasonable to pursue to previously planned goals and not abandon them or suspend them due to the difficulties which we experience towards the action of the Russian Federation. Secondly, at the same time, it is necessary to provide effective support to the most vulnerable people who are unable, for the reasons beyond their control, their choice, to achieve goals in the field of the air protection and the climate protection. Vulnerability, we understand here as the extent to which a natural and a social system is susceptible to sustaining the damage from the climate change. But I have to feel it in this understanding that the critical factors of a vulnerability in this case are the sensitivity of the society and adaptive competence. So it's not hard to imagine that the both of these factors might be infatuated in the event of the sudden crisis. But changes of priorities is crucial in the crisis situations, but not always if consciousness of the priorities is low. So I mean that in some circumstances, we can talk about a vulnerability per se, because, for example, for the reasons of the geographical location, and vulnerability at chasm, it can be in case of the war, for example. The second option, of course, can become a permanent state according to development of a situation. So for vulnerable communities, pro-climate solutions can become challenges when they are not reflective of what communities environment really needs, especially at the unit level. This applies to low consciousness in a general, but also to poor recognition of the new situation in which individuals find themselves. And to put it simply, the most vulnerable people, for example, as a result of the warfare, are often in a situation with no solution in order to survive, including functioning in appropriate standard of living. They are forced to choose cheap, easily accessible solutions, for example, heating buildings with coal. Such decisions should not be treated as made under the conditions of complete freedom of choice. The context of the choice is really crucial here. So these people cannot be a victim of the energy crisis if only because they fear it is easy to it's easy to blame on the climate policies and jeopardize the achievements of goals set. So while we can agree that the present generation should make concessions with the benefits of the future generations, we do not mean concessions that end in the energy poverty or even in extreme cases, death from the hypothermia. Thirdly, in the face of the crisis, it is impossible to leave everything to the market mechanisms, precisely because of the possibility of blaming the observed state of affairs on the climate policies. So state authorities, even in Europe, considered a number of interventions in the market policies and mechanisms, from subsidies to energy carriers to maximum prices for them to suspension or even liquidation of market energy trading. Here, one should caution against the potential short-sightedness of such measures. So, although free market energies prices in the face of the energy crisis may be too much of a burden for the citizens and the economy, their elimination would not be an action conducted to energy savings. This, in turn, seems to be the simplest means of combating both the energy and the climate. And the last thesis, and I'm ending like a sprinter. The support program must focus on the three priorities. So protection of the most disadvantaged, vulnerable people, protect those who make decisions in the line with the environmental and climate policies. And thirdly, not treating persons other than those indicated below. So the priorities here are to maintain the strength, the confidence in the state that is consistent implementation of long-term policies, and to prevent environmental and climate policies from being blamed for the crisis. And I have prepared two short examples of the situation in Poland. I just mentioned really shortly about the carbon supplement. It is this kind of support that households whose heating source is coal or carbon-based fuels, and it's an example of a regulation which to some extent destroys the achievement of climate goals. Granting of a regulation that does not depend on the amount of the income obtained by the persons living in the same household. So by granting this type of allowance, the legislator drives the use of energy sources that should be abandoned in the times of the climate crisis. So people who invested in the replacement of the heat sources and subscribed the promoted trends could feel disappointed by the fact that the nationwide support program was established for people who heat home with coal. So that's all. I was trying to speak as fast as I can. So thank you very much. I hope I said everything clear, and thank you very much for the possibility to be here and to talk just to people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Thank you so much, Professor, for such an interesting presentation. Thank you. So because we are run out of time, so I just go on to next speaker. And our next speaker is also well known to most of you. It is the second time he has agreed to participate in the expert panel of the CLGD conference. Last year he accompanied us in Glasgow. As he was doctoral this year, he is a professor, Professor Paweł Poszytek. It's an honor to have you with us today. Professor holds the position of the Director General of the Foundation for Development of the Education System, Director of the National Agency of the Erasmus Plus program and the European Solidarity Corps. He's a member of advisory and consultative groups of the European Commission, coordinator of the Council of Europe Project Country Profile, and expert of the Horizon 2020 program, author of articles published, for example, as by such annual publisher as Cambridge University Press. And the professor is really very active, and we are very happy that he accepted our invitation. So Professor will share with us his observation in the area of how can Erasmus Plus program provide ways out to ecological and Ukraine crisis before permanent legal solutions are provided. So the Professor, the floor is yours.
Hello, brother. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm trying to share my, oh yes.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, success, good. Okay, so yes, actually this is going to be a kind of continuation of what I've presented to you already. So what was presented last year during COP26 in Glasgow. But obviously, it's not only the continuation, but it is also looking at Erasmus Plus program's contribution to pre-ecological initiative and actions, also in the context of the war in Ukraine. Okay, so as you already know, Erasmus Plus program actually is not only for mobility, but it is also basically for the cooperation between different institutions like schools, like universities, like cooperation between universities and business in all possible different subject areas. Actually, according to the European Commission, this program supports not only educational European area, but actually it is somehow embedded into the broader social education as well, but also broader socio-economical context of the European Union. Okay, so and as you already know, probably there are 4 priorities of the program for this financial period, which is from 21 to 27. I'm not going to talk about these priorities, but we should focus on one of them, which is obvious and most important in the context of our discussion here, which is the priority for environment and fight against climate change. So basically, it's like supporting different activities to raise awareness on sustainable development and climate action, and promoting green travel. To be more exact, this priority actually falls into three areas of activities. So the first one, that Erasmus Plus program will be a key instrument for building knowledge, skills, and attitudes on climate change and sustainable development, both within the European Union and beyond. The other area is to cater for the increase of the number of mobility opportunities in green forward-looking domains, which fosters the development of competences, enhances career prospects, and engages participants in strategic areas for sustainable growth, with special attention to rural development. And the third pillar of this priority is the area that actually Erasmus Plus program should strive for carbon neutrality by promoting sustainable transport modes and more environmentally responsible behavior. So if we look back into the previous perspective, financial perspective of the European Union, which was 2014-2020, and within that financial period, actually, there was no such a priority like Green Erasmus or promoting a European Green Deal. So even without the priority in this financial period from 2014 to 2020, we had only in Poland, we had over 800 projects, and the grants spent on those pre-ecological actions and activities were about 35 million euros. And if we think only about the projects aimed at decarbonization, there were 53 of them with a cost of 2.5 million euro. And I'm stressing that these are only the figures for the previous financial period, and these are only the figures for Poland. So now, if you take into consideration that in this financial period, there is a priority for pro-ecological activities. And if you take into consideration that actually the budget for this financial period is doubled, and if you also take into consideration that we should somehow scale up these numbers, looking from the perspective of the whole Europe, not only Poland, so you will see actually the scale of the program and to what extent actually it can contribute to pre-ecological attitudes, to raising awareness, and to all the activities connected with Green Deal and Green Europe. So yes, so this is the scale. So as I said, now we have priority for green activities. We have significantly increased budget, and we have to look at these figures not only through the perspective of Poland, but through the perspective of the whole Europe and all the countries involved. So from that perspective, all these numbers become really significant and meaningful. But okay, but the question is, so what is Erasmus Plus contribution actually? So to make it short, we can say that it is a kind of permanent and stable platform for supporting bottom-up approaches for implementing pro-ecological solutions across Europe. So every year, all the time, different organizations, different groups of people, not only highly structuralized and institutionalized, but also the groups of young people, youth can apply and can grants for different kinds of activities within the whole concept of Green Europe. Yes, so more or less, I think that's obvious, and the figures speak for themselves. But now the question is, can it still be effective, the whole program and all these activities, can they still be effective in the context of the war in Ukraine? So obviously the priorities of the program and the due course of the program is not changed. As I said, it's very stable, but the context has been changed a bit, within which the program functions. So from the political or social point of view, we have some changes because priorities has changed here due to the energy crisis. So, for example, decarbonization is no longer priority in the short term. Is not a priority, for example, for Poland. We are the country which has got still huge deposits of coal, and in the face of this crisis, different countries will be looking for alternative solutions, how to heat up homes during winter, and so on. So, but still, the current role of the Erasmus Plus program lies within its priorities, which are not changed and will not be changed, even if some amendments are going to be implemented. It will be rather strengthening already functioning priorities. And what we can also say about the program, apart from the fact that it is very stable, it has also some kind of flexibility and ability to adapt very quickly to the needs and challenges. So, for example, the program obviously cannot contribute much to the war crisis in Ukraine, but it supports to high degree the people from Ukraine. People from Ukraine, when they come to Poland, they become students. We provide from Erasmus Plus program, we provide funds to universities to help them stay here temporarily. That we transform them into being Erasmus Plus students. So this has a few goals. I mean, this approach and aims. First of all, these students do not lose the contacts with the universities in Ukraine. And when the war finishes, and we hope it is going to be quickly, actually they are forming very stable links between Poland and Ukraine. For example, to continue those activities and projects which aim at creating the broader context for green Europe. So actually, on the one hand, we support these people, but on the other hand, we create some links which will be very useful later on in rebuilding Ukraine, and also rebuilding Ukraine in the context of all those pre-ecological attitudes and approaches. Okay, so concluding, because I already have the information from the organizers that my time is running up. So we can say that Erasmus program is a kind of soft power. Obviously, even though some numbers can be significant and meaningful, what I presented in the beginning, still we should treat Erasmus Plus more like a soft power, creating and promoting certain attitudes and raising awareness and supporting individuals in their activities. But it's not exaggeration when we say that actually it's a kind of change driver, always a few steps ahead before some permanent legal solutions are implemented or before some more concrete actions are taken. So the program is always there, somewhere in the background, supporting individuals and supporting also institutions in implementing pro-ecological solutions, activities, and raising awareness. So that's all, folks.
Yes, we have. Yes, Paweł, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. As always, it was extremely interesting. And right now, I would like to invite two young promising researchers representing the voice of young generations. And It's Mikołaj and Kate. Mikołaj also has been accompanying the Climate Law and Governance Day for 5 years now. For Kate, is her second active. Mikołaj is a PhD candidate at Technology University Delft and AI researcher and CEO of Innovation, a provider of advanced software for data analysis. He is also alumni of Entrepreneurs First, the biggest, the best program in the world, and for 50 highly skilled people every half year are chosen to work under high time pressure to build startups. And Kate is currently a student at Catholic University of Louvain, alumni of GeoOutRod program, and passionate future engineering member of board of SHI's innovation program of Prospective Women in Tech. And these two young promising researchers will try to answer the question, how can legal solutions support and accelerate startup development in the renewable energy sector in the light of energy crisis? And because we are run of time, so Kate, Mikołaj, the floor is yours for 6, max 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stryja, for the introduction and for welcoming us again to this wonderful event. So let's get it started, Mikołaj.
Yes, of course. All right. Yeah, so.
Okay, so policy plays a essential role in clean energy innovation. It is not only a tool that motivates a change, but also a tool that can protect both the company behind the innovation and its users. However, if legal solutions are not created and applied to innovation, it can lead to many damages and slow down technological implementation and transition. This is the case with renewable energy sources, which have been neglected for many years. Mikołaj, is presentation second slide? Okay, thank you. So solar panels and wind turbines were invented in 19th century, and together with other renewable energy sources, they still represent less than half of the world's total energy production. However, from a societal point of view, energy is an essential need, but like any need, it is only noticed when there are drastic changes to it. In this case, by the price put on the bill or the lack of energy. This is when society starts to think about what exactly it is, how it works, and how to avoid the situation, because no being wants to experience drastic changes in its basic needs. Society is used to centralize energy systems and their dependence without questioning them. But in times of crisis, it is more open to change. This is the perfect opportunity for new solutions to come to the market. The question is whether the current policy is prepared for this, and if not, whether it can keep up with the pace of a change and learn from the past examples.
All right. So from my side, I would like to switch into a little bit detailed aspects of how, in general, legal solutions were or not were in the given field when some crisis occurred. Of course, at the beginning, I would like to express my gratitude to Mrs. Stryja for inviting me again. So, yeah, let's start from a little bit old-fashioned topic, 2008 global financial crisis. Everyone knows about it. Regardless of the reasons why this crisis occurred, I would like to show that this crisis brought us something what right now is enormous, and we are talking about it daily, the cryptocurrency. Like when the financial world was under the huge crisis, the group of people who believed that they are able to do something better, do something in a different way, created the peer-to-peer network where they decided to implement the financial space. It was the beginning of today's cryptocurrency, beginning of the blockchain technology, so popular right now. However, because of the fact that there weren't enough, I would say, there weren't enough regulation and regulatory framework to this kind of solutions at the beginning, in the next 13 years, between 2009 and 2022, we were witness of a lot of frauds, scams, and cybersecurity violence. The very similar situation is with illegal copyright space. Like, I think most of us remember the times where the Pirate Bay was the most popular website. Before the beginning of the Spotify, YouTube, Tidal, Netflix, HBO Max, etc., all the movies, music, papers were downloaded from the illegal sources without focus on creators of this media. This crisis also showed that people figured out how to do it better. However, without regulations, again, regulations stayed behind, while the small companies, small startups accelerated the progress. And right now, the providers of regulatory framework are seeing that this is required to also implement the regulatory framework for this kind of innovative solutions. So energy crisis, like today we are facing, the graph which you can see here is the prices of energy per megawatt hour with Polish, of course, in Polish currency. This is prices, the source of these prices are Polish electroenergetic grid, so quite reliable source. As you can see, between here we got the first part of the graph is 2021, the second one is the beginning of 2022. So as we can see in the same time space in the 2021 in comparison with 2022, there is a huge difference, and the distribution in 2022 is much higher. So what I want to say is that we can see the crisis is here, and we, based on the previous experience, we are able to predict that solutions different than classic centralized energy grid or classic energy grid based on the government will happen. So maybe this is the time, and I'm pretty sure that this is the time to also look at the startup world in the energy crisis and try to support them in order to prevent the opportunity to potential fraud, scams, violence in the space of energy, and to provide the sustainable development of the whole process of developing the new way how energy is distributed across the countries, across the Europe, across the world. So, all right. So if time is short up, all right. So yeah, the only maybe I will say just short summary. So the short summary which I wanted to say in 1 minute is that we understand, like from the engineering point of view, as startup founders, as engineers, as founders or other business people, we understand where the inefficiencies occur, and we know where to address the solutions. So the thing is that what I believe is the best solution is something what entrepreneur first, which Mrs. Stryja mentioned at the beginning, is to push the people who are creating this technology and let them talk with the people who are providers of regulatory framework in order to create together the best possible path to create the way how the startups in this concrete space should be developed in the near future, because in my opinion it's extremely crucial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your such a fresh look. It is impressive that you can share, both of you, already rich experience with us at such a young age. Thank you so much. And our next speaker is Dr. Anna Budanowska. I would like to ask Anya to give us
to summarize our panel. It's not so easy to summarize a very interesting panel.
Yes, but I'm sure that in your brilliant and unique style, but please let me introduce you, Anya, because Anya is a champion of the European City of Science Katowice 2024, a member of the board of Euroscience, and Dr. Budanowska is also former Vice Minister of Science and Higher Education. So, Anya, the floor is yours for a few minutes.
So I would like to say that today's presentation proved that the crisis triggered by the Ukraine war has forced government to take action to protect their national energy resources policies. But not only because of the needs of their citizens and ensure that the people and business have access to energy. Of course, some priorities have been temporarily put on hold, but how we say it's temporary. Of course, we burn more coal, more oil, nuclear power plants, but on the industrial and enterprises level, at the level B2B and B2C, we are seeing profound changes in reducing dependencies on fossil fuels. So even if the realization of the principle of climate law seems to be delayed, in this part of Europe, the legal system, how in Poland, try to apply that so-called anti-crisis shield on procedures of the legal act directly related to the energy crisis. No, and it's very often models and procedures known from the pandemic COVID-19. It's paradoxal facts. Of course, they are intended to provide temporary assistance to those most affected by the economic consequences of the crisis. But in my opinion, the military conflict in our part of Europe has proved that does not realize the decision maker from the obligation to ensure the economic rights by guaranteeing the realization of the balance of the climate law and energy principles. And this is crucial because how we said, the green energy and economy means independency, what said Mikołaj, and like Kazimierz said, locality and decentralization of energy distribution and generation are the key of success to create example how the local government can create climate policy with collaboration and very effectively. So what we can say more? This is our strong message because this is our Independence Day in Poland. So the green energy and decentralization of the distribution and the generation of the energy means independency. Thank you thank you very much for this panel, and Magda, I pause for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anna. And we also have a recording from Professor Alexander Harrington because he was unable to be with us in person, but because we are absolutely out of time. So this record will be whole record will be available on the Center for International Sustainable Development Law. So we invite every of you to watch the video and to listen to the video. And well, I think that our panel is over now. Yes, over to Nick. Or do we have time?
We have questions that have been
questions. Yes, because I would like to open a discussion right now. So so please, we are waiting for the questions.
A question from Buckingham. She's an Egyptian student. She asked, in the light of the energy crisis in the European Union, and with the members of the European Union who moving towards the use of the fossil gas, do the UE climate policies will be consistent with the Paris Agreement temperature limit?
Well, I try to and I sent the response to this, so you have this on your chart. Yes, definitely. I mean, the situation that we have today is, I would say, very temporary. So it will not last forever. So okay, we are using more gas, we are using more coal, but I firmly believe that besides that, we in Poland, for example, yes, we have so much coal, we will not use the coal anymore in the longer term, meaning after 2030. So it's just only temporary, but I would rather say that the situation has proved that we have to really skip from everything that is labeled as fossil fuel. Also, there's a threat temporarily right now, for example, that we will import from Egypt or from Turkey many other products because they are produced from the raw material, which is oil or gas, for example. So this is another issue that should be as well discussed between Middle East and Egypt and the European Union, especially the carbon tax. But I think that the situation that we are having today is only temporarily because we need to survive. But as I mentioned in this chart, as you see, the mega trend in the whole more developed industrial companies in Europe, even without any public policy imposed on those companies, is that we want to get rid of the fossil fuels. And as I mentioned, it's not only about electric vehicle, it's rather about how this very vehicle, more than, let's say, 20 million of those vehicles in Europe will be produced, from which materials. And this is the basic change. This is directly linked to GHG Scope 3, which is coming from the climate policy directly, is going to happen within the coming five years. As you see, even last week, the biggest car producer in Europe, which is the Volkswagen Group. Volkswagen is very huge, yes, one, as you know. They have announced that they are idling the production of conventional cars. So they are going only to produce from 2030 electric vehicles. So forget about diesel, forget about traditional cars. And today we have almost 2023, so it will happen within the coming 5 to 7 years. There will be no other cars than electric vehicles, maybe with some mix from hybrid in some cases, but not an individual cars will be electric.
Only one word. I think after this war crisis in Ukraine, many processes accelerating. This kind of renewable energy is linked with independence, and this is very important for Europe be independent from country like Russia, that the process is accelerating.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for this question. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
No, there is no.
No, we don't have. Okay, so I just want to say, because it's we don't have time right now, and we all say hello to Professor Alexandra Harrington. She's due to an emergency circumstances. She's traveled from UK and USA. As I said, the whole record from Professor Alexandra Harrington will be available at the Center for International Sustainable Development Law. And I just want to mention that Professor Alexandra Harrington, she's a lecturer professor at Lancaster University, UK. She's a chair of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Task Force on Plastic Pollution, former research director of the Center for International Sustainable Development Law, vice chair of the Board of Women in Ethics and Compliance Global. Yes.
As there is another question.
There's another question. We are very happy.
1 minute, I will read it. Yes, I can.
If I may, it's a question from Professor Gehring. He's asking, will the reparations that Russia will have to pay be used for a green transition in Ukraine?
Well, the green transition in Ukraine, that for sure will happen, but most probably it will be rather co-financed by the European, the World Bank and the European Commission funds within the Special Marshal for Ukraine. And this is how it will develop, especially the wind and photovoltaics energy. That is something, the direction that will be developed in Ukraine. But the Russian, that is a very difficult, almost impossible. How are you going to really receive those money from Russia as a reparation? Actually, the process will last years, but in the meantime, the whole energy sector in Ukraine has to be has to be changed, has to be decentralized, because it is a very centralized today. And more or less, what we have to stress is rather belongs, unfortunately, to a very certain, very narrow group of people and decision makers, and it does not belong to the government, rather to the oligarchs, which is not good, definitely, in terms of the modernization and building a new value to this system. So for sure, the money should come from European Commission, from the World Bank, from ECB, from EIB, but are under certain strict conditions that will be distributed via the European system for allocating money and investing money, European money, into the new projects. The system should be very similar as a co-investment mechanism as it is today, for example, in Poland, but under a strict rules and goals, let's say, established together with the Ukraine government. And then I believe, yeah, it can happen within the coming 5 years as well.
Thank you so much. And Shaizan, do we have time, or because right now I'm a little confused. We have like 20 minutes over time, so.
Okay.
So so maybe we have some more questions from the audience. If not, do we have something? Do you see? No?
No, I didn't see.
No. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you to all panelists, to distinguished speakers for participating in this session and for accepting our invitation, mine and Anna. So we both are very grateful to all of you. Once again, we would like to express our gratitude to Professor Mary Claire, to member program committee, to friends, and for such a fantastic conference and crucial topics. So thank you so much, and I hope see you all next year in Dubai.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.